As the nightcap rolls on into another hour, Gary Jeff Walker with you on 700 WLW. Joining us again this evening on the telephone, a previous guest, local attorney Mark Eppley. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing very well, Gary Jeff. Thank you.
By the way, it was nice to see you at the bar earlier today.
Thank you. It's always good to see you. Mark's
specialty is divorce. I want to ask you first, Mark, why did you pick divorce as your specialty?
You know, I fell in love with the legal process and most importantly, divorce and family law, because I come from a broken home, and my parents divorced when I was 14 years old. And I just kind of fell in love with the whole process at that point. So what better way than having a young child and already reviewing divorce decrees and kind of seeing what the whole legal profession entails than with my parents. And therefore, I became a divorce attorney. That's what I knew I wanted to do when I was in law school.
It almost seems counterintuitive, though, being through that painful process, and you decide to be involved in that process as an adult. Do you get where I'm coming from, too?
Yeah, absolutely. And truth be told, my parents were going to divorce when I was 2 years old. And my parents, mostly my mom, stayed together because she realized the importance of having a father figure in the house. And really my job in being a divorce attorney is obviously to represent the legal interest of my client, but also to make sure that they are guided by information, whether it's financial or personal or business, after the divorce is over, but also to look out really for the best interest of the children. Because when people are getting divorced, they're making irrational decisions that don't always include the best interest of the kids or the best interest for them. And so that's why I do what I do, just to try to protect the interests of my clients, but the kids as well.
Well, sadly, I have been divorced 3 times. Of course, I remarried my third wife, and we've been happily together again for nearly 5 years. So it kind of finally worked out. But wading my way through that whole mist of whatever, missed opportunities, regrets, did I not see this coming? Did I not see the writing on the wall? I'm very familiar with it, and it's always a painful process. Even if it's something that both parties want, I find it to be just the most god-awful of things that anybody goes through as an adult. I mean, any thoughts on that at all?
It is a painful process, and most of the time, for whatever reason, it appears as if it's one party that is really trying to make the divorce work, or make the marriage work, and the other party who really has just kind of thrown in the towel. And it is a painful process. Obviously, there is a point in time where you have loved the person that you are with, and more likely than not, you have children with, and separating from a partner or a person who you have loved, you're always going to have those feelings for the ex-spouse, and you just don't really ever get over that. And there obviously there's an attachment or a relationship with the ex-spouse, especially if you have children, until they turn 18 or 21.
Yeah.
But it is painful. It is painful.
And there are no children in any of my marriages, which is the whole point of marriages. That's why I'm not going to get into an esoteric political discussion about the term marriage. But the actual roots of matrimony literally mean baby maker. So that's part of the reason that we were designed to get married and be with each other, is to proliferate and procreate the species and stuff. But even without children involved, it's just really, really hard. You have spent hours and days and months and years together in many cases, and now this part of your life is going away. And we are very much creatures of habit, generally, as human beings. We like things to not change. We like to know where everything is going and where we stand in relationships and in life. So it's, I understand why. Psychologists tell me that for every year you were married, it takes about half that long to kind of recover, depending on the circumstances. I was going to ask you about,
Sure.
did you have a response to any of that?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to ask you in these high-profile marriages and
Sure.
divorces. We have a president, obviously, who has been divorced a couple of times. We have this Jeff Bezos thing that came out last week, the richest man in America, the richest man in the world, suddenly getting a divorce from his wife of 25 years. How much more does that kind of money complicate a proceeding for an attorney or a set of attorneys in their case? They'll probably have, what, 25, 30 attorneys working on this one?
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody's going to be kind of hands on deck with the law firms that they decide to hire to represent them in this divorce. And I think it's going to be amicable, just in kind of looking through the news and the documents online. But it seems like that it's going to be amicable. But absolutely, when you're talking about the richest man in the world and his wife after this divorce, who will become the richest woman in the world, obviously it's a matter of making sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and making sure that the money is being trailed the way that it's been traced, the way that it's supposed to be. I mean, you have a gentleman who's worth $137 billion. I mean,
Yeah.
that is money that is unfathomable to you and me. And just to kind of, no offense, but to kind of look at it.
No. Let me tell you, Mark Eppley, let me tell you this, and I'll let you continue.
Sure.
My net worth right now is $137, and mostly it's because you came into the bar today. So, anyway, continue.
You know, and it's important to look at it from that perspective. Is you're dealing with dollars and cents, and the thing with Jeff and his wife MacKenzie is they do not have a prenuptial agreement. And that can complicate things regarding the number of investments that Jeff has with Blue Origin and with Amazon, and trying to figure out in essence to try to calculate what the worth of him is going to be down the road. But at least she's going to walk out with $66-67 billion to her name, and that's, you know, that's not something to laugh at. But money complicates things, and so do having kids, and they've got 4 children.
Think about how many walls could be built on the southern border with $66 billion. Just curious.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We can't even get $5 billion to build a wall from Congress.
But
you know,
the other part of the Bezos thing highlighted something else I've thought many times before, Mark. Talking to Mark Eppley, divorce attorney locally here. And that is, why in the world would you expect, would you want, would you allow your private life to be so public, even if you're a public person? Now, I'm a public person, and God forbid Krista and I get divorced again, which isn't going to happen. We know this. We both know this. Why would I want that spread all over social media, in the mainstream media and the tabloids? I just think it's such an awful distraction. It's almost like America needs to know about this because he's the richest man in the world, and he's head of Amazon and owns the Washington Post and all these other things that he does. And we have some kind of, I don't know how to say, we've got some kind of awful addiction to bad news when it comes to the high and mighty and the famous and when they fall. And I have a problem even broaching the subject with you tonight because of this very reason. Just internally, I'm going, my God, I'm not Jeff Bezos. I never will be Jeff Bezos. My wife will never be his wife. But why in the hell do people need to know so much about their personal inner workings? I understand the economic repercussions of what happens down the line. I get that. But anytime there's some kind of famous falling out among married people, and it's celebrity stuff, and it's plastered all over the National Enquirers and the Star and TMZ and the Internet and all the rest of it, it kind of is sickening to me because I wouldn't want that kind of scrutiny. I don't live that kind of life, but I wouldn't want that kind of scrutiny in my personal life when things have fallen apart. Would you?
Well, absolutely not. And it's kind of a dichotomy where you have people who are in the public eyes who are wanting to make sure that everything that happens divorce-wise stays private. And then you have people who are living these private lives who, the minute they get divorced, want to make everything public. And as an American society, we crave bad news. The news is generated upon destruction and upon chaos and upon natural disasters, and we look at it from this perspective of saying, I want to know everything that Jeff Bezos is involved in. I want to know everything that his wife is involved in, because we want to take sides. We aren't comfortable just allowing people to live their lives and to disappear from the spotlight. We want to know everything. We are intrinsically attuned to entertainment because we feel better when somebody who has more clout, more power, more notoriety than we do falls from grace. And that's why we're so in tune with this Jeff Bezos. That's why we're so in tune with this supposed affair, this romantic, night out with Lauren Sanchez. We feel better about ourselves when we can look through and say, hey, this is a gentleman who had the world, literally had the world, and is dating somebody else, and now I don't feel so bad. I mean,
Mark, that is a natural kind of response. We always want to feel like everything that's terrible that's falling down on us doesn't happen to other people. I mean, I think that's a part of it too, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We want the best for us, and for whatever reason, the way that we build ourselves up is by tearing down other people.
Yeah.
And so when these come into the limelight, we want to say, he had the world, and look at him now. And that kind of beefs us up a little bit better, saying, I still have an intact marriage. I still have this. And really, this just, anybody who has doubted the idea that money solves all problems, this is a prime example to say that it doesn't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you know the percentages, you don't have to give me the exact percentage points, Mark.
Sure.
But is it basically still a fact that in America, especially America, all marriages, or 50% of marriages end in divorce? Does that still pretty much hold true over time?
There's an old joke that kind of goes along with that says 50% of marriages end in divorce, so it's either going to be you or your spouse that ends up getting divorced, kind of thing. But honestly, Gary, Jeff, it's about 52% right now.
52%. And is it higher? Is it higher in America than it does in other countries?
I haven't done the research on that, but I would venture to think that it probably is, because we live in a land of opportunity, and when we don't like something, we just do whatever we feel like doing. And where we have the freedom and the luxury to do that, and just to kind of dispose of it. I mean, it's difficult to get divorced in other marriages, or in other countries, because there are these arranged marriages.
Right. There's cultural differences.
Absolutely.
There are differences in the laws and the like.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like, and this affects your craft, Mark Eppley, do you feel like it's too easy still in this country to get divorced?
I think that there's not enough effort into counseling to try to work out the.
Have you ever recommended your clients into counseling?
Absolutely. And
is that almost like the first step after somebody files?
Not always. Kentucky is a little bit more mediation friendly, conference friendly, to try to get people to come to the table, whether it's a matter of solving and resolving their divorce, or at least seeking some kind of marital counseling and the like. There have been a number of times where I'll have represented clients who put everything on hold for 90 days and go to marital counseling and try to make things work. And unfortunately, it's not successful. I've had maybe 2 or 3 in the last 10 years. that have really been kind of a success. But yeah, I think
So there is a slight glimmer of hope if you go down that path. A slight glimmer of hope.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that's in the marital decree or the divorce decree is that the parties' marriage is irretrievably broken with no chance of reconciliation, and that's part of it in Kentucky and in Ohio too. And those are one of the questions that are asked when you're doing final marriage hearings. But I think it's just that we give up too easy, and that the courts really just are willing to divorce people because they're at odds instead of really trying to put them together in a room where they talk.
Right.
And really, you know as well as I know that the idea of a divorce is really based upon more of a lack of communication than anything else.
Absolutely.
The parties just don't talk. And trying to force them to go to mediation to talk their differences out, you know, good luck with that. But, I mean, it's just a matter of paying money. You pay money, you get a filing or a complaint for divorce or a petition for dissolution of marriage in Kentucky, and you know you pay an attorney to get the process done, and you go your merry way. And it's the party who files has the absolute right to the divorce. So the party who's being served with the summons doesn't really have a legal remedy or an avenue to stop it if one party wants it. And there's got to be some kind of change in that, I think. I really do. I really do.
So you think a legislative change in the way the laws or the codes are written, right?
Yeah, because when you're dealing with a no-fault state, it doesn't matter. Somebody can say, yep, he did this, or yes, he did that, and push it through the pipeline, regardless of whether that's factually based or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's I love what I do. I love representing my clients, and I love talking them through the divorce process. And going back to what we talked about earlier, it is painful to go that route, but put a little bit more effort into making sure that your marriage works. Make sure that your kids grow up with both parties in the house.
Right.
Your kids, whether you know it or not, your kids need you, and they need their dad or they need their mom. And try to make that happen. I encourage my clients to try to go to counseling at least once or twice, because once we file, there's really not a whole lot that we can do to stop it.
You're not going to stop that train.
You're telling me to. Yeah.
All right, Mark. One final question.
Sure.
You mentioned, and we all know because it's been so well publicized, as we talked about, the Bezos divorce from his wife, and there was no prenuptial agreement. I heard some talking head on one of the networks talking about a post-nuptial agreement. What is that?
A post-nuptial agreement would be an agreement between the parties to, in essence, divide the assets or divide the debt, and or simply just to be divorced, and to take that information and to come up with an agreement that they feel is in their best interest based upon that, but not necessarily going through an absolute divorce in and of itself. It's more of a legal.
In other words, you just get, if you have the post-nuptial agreement, you just sign it. You both sign it and send it to the courts, and they go, okay, you're done.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just saying we want to allocate debts, we want to allocate assets, or we want to allocate X, Y, and Z, and we're done with this whole.
What is the average? And I'm not talking about your sheet or whatever. What's the average cost of a divorce in 30 seconds in this country?
You know, it depends if there are kids and what you're looking at as far as assets are concerned. And like I would venture to think around here in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, it's probably between $500 and $7,500.
Yeah. Well, Mark Eppley. I called you Mark Bezos, but then you'd have a whole new set of problems. How am I going to get this money from my brother's wife?
That's right. And I don't know how to explain that to my wife.
Mark Eppley, how do people get in touch with you if they need some advice?
They can find me online at Eppley Legal Group. It's EPPLEY legalgroup.com.
All right.
Or they can get a hold of me at 621-MARK, M-A-R-K, or 621-6275.
All right. Thanks for being on the show tonight, Mark. Good to see you
My
today,
pleasure.
too.
Thanks so much.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks so much, Gary Jeff. Appreciate
Take
it.
care.